Welcome to the Cocktail Guru Podcast,
a show about food, drink, and entertainment,
with a tight focus on the good life,
and all things delicious, luxurious, and fun.
I'm Jonathan Pogash, bartender, author, and the host of Cocktails the Grand Tour.
And I'm Jeffrey Pogash, wine and spirits professional, author, insatiable collector of culinary ephemera, and so people tell me, an engaging raconteur.
And my dad. Dad, you look great. You look great, Dad. It's good to see you.
Hi, John. How are you? I look great because I've dressed for our guest. I'm in my Dan Dunn shirt.
Oh, yes.
That's why I look
see it.
So
the
good.
people at home who are listening can't see it, but why don't you just describe it briefly?
Well, it's a semi-tiki shirt. It has surfer dudes, palm trees, and beach jeeps all over it.
It's the trifecta.
And that's when I think of Dan Dunn, I think of all of those things.
Yeah, it's the trifecta of things that are reminiscent of Dan Dunn. And
right.
I'm wearing my lemon shirt. So people watching the video stream can see it, but obviously they can't see it during the podcast. But what do you? I'd say it's whiskey weather out there. What do you think, Dad?
Son, every day is whiskey weather.
Oh, okay. I get it. Thanks. Well, I'm going to put a little bit of this Journeyman Distillery Featherbone whiskey in my glass.
Yes.
And you've got a little bit of it in your glass too, right?
I've tasted it already. It's delicious. It's a lovely whiskey, bourbon. And the history is quite interesting as well.
It's from Michigan. It's good.
It is from Michigan. And Featherbone is the name of the building in which they distill the bourbon. Because this is interesting, perhaps for Dan. The factory was a leather factory originally, and it produced whips and corsets.
Okay,
right.
So this is a great intro to Dan Dunn because whips and corsets are right up his alley. But seriously, guys, our podcast focuses on the good life, all things delicious, luxurious, and fun. Speaking of luxurious and fun, today's guest is Mr. Dan Dunn. This larger-than-life character is an author, podcast host, compulsive imbiber, and more importantly, an old pal. No, not the cocktail, but yes, the dear friend. We're pleased to have him on the Cocktail Guru podcast. Welcome, Dan Dunn.
Welcome,
hey guys.
Hi.
Thanks for having me. What a. I don't know if I'm worthy of that intro, but I'll take it.
Stop. Thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to be with us.
Yes, I'm very busy.
We are honored.
And Dan, we begin each episode by asking our guests their favorite beverages. More specifically, they're stranded on a desert island beverage. So what is your stranded on a desert island beverage?
Does coffee count on that desert island? Do I get to have a coffee in the morning? I mean, that's what I'm having now. It's funny, Jonathan, when you said it feels like Scotch weather. It does not feel like Scotch weather where I'm at. I'm in Venice Beach, and we're getting a little Indian summer today. Today's going to be one of the hottest days that we've had. So I'm a little sweaty today, but so I'm having coffee right now because it's early my time. But drinks, let's see. I wrote a book called American Wino, so I love wine. But cocktail-wise, I really whatever you're putting in front of me. I can tell you something that I had the other night that I was very happy that I drank. It wasn't a cocktail, but I got a chance to try the Yamazaki 55-year-old, which was certainly in the top 5 of the most expensive things I've ever had. It retails for $60,000 a bottle, but you're not getting it for $60,000. In fact, my friend, and I'm sure you guys know Brad Jaffe, Brad sent me a link to a bottle that they're selling on the secondary market right now for $950,000.
Whoa.
So I got to drink an eyedropper's worth the other night. They had a little event here in Malibu, and I got to try that. So that's my favorite thing right now.
Wow.
Well, that sounds pretty good to me. Wow.
Here's the thing about something like that. Well, people will ask me. In fact, I'll name drop here. I was sitting next to this guy, Daniel, who was on Lost and Hawaii Five-0. He's an actor. And he was asking me some questions about when he found out what I do about spirits and whiskey in particular. Look, if you took that Yamazaki 15 or 55, excuse me, and you were just blind tasting against, say, an 18-year-old whiskey or something like that, and money didn't matter, none of that prestige, rarity, none of it mattered, not even blind tasting, but what would I prefer to drink? I'd probably go with the 18. That's kind of the sweet spot for me, right? But what I love when I get it on those very rare occasions that I get to try something like the Yamazaki 55, or I remember having Macallan 64, is the experience of it, which is, I think about the fact that almost everybody that had anything to do with those barrels getting laid down in the first place is gone, right? They're not with us anymore. Yeah. But yet we're drinking this thing, and through that, their spirit's living on. It's like when I listen to music, David Bowie is no longer with us, but he's alive as ever. His music's as alive as ever. And the thing about Bowie, you can listen to Bowie anytime you want, all the time. That's the difference with an old spirit, is there's a finite amount of it, okay? They released 100 bottles of that Yamazaki 55, and in all likelihood, I'm never going to have it again. My friends aren't interesting enough to own a bottle like that. But so that was it. I got that little moment where I got to commune with the spirits, man. And I mean, not just the liquid spirits, but the spirits of the people that made it that are gone.
And in all likelihood, Jonathan and I will never be able to taste that. So
no, never.
I'm sticking with my Journeyman bourbon.
I mean, you guys have had...
It's a lot less expensive and delicious.
You've had some stuff, though, right? Like, what's the craziest thing? I mean, you've tasted things that most people are never going to get near.
That's a very good question. And I think Dad has probably tasted way more interesting stuff than I have. So that's a good question. Dad, what's the most interesting thing you've tasted?
Well, nothing in that price range. The most interesting thing... The most expensive items that I've tasted are cognacs that are a few $1,000s a bottle.
Well,
but
Jeff,
not
I was on a trip with you to Cognac.
Yes.
And if memory serves, I'm trying to remember exactly what Cognac house we were at, but we went down into the cellar.
Yes.
And they were pulling some stuff out of old, what are they keeping that in? Like ceramic pots or something, I don't know what they were pulling out some stuff that it hasn't yet made it to bottle and may never. I got to suspect some of that stuff was 100 years old. And if they were to bottle it, would be,
yes. No, I agree with you. In some respects, those are priceless cognacs. Absolutely. But we don't know how much they would actually cost if they were on the market. But
why do they
would certainly be expensive.
Why don't they buy? I mean, at the time that we did it, it certainly seemed like there wasn't a market for it like there is now. Now, it seems like anybody that has really, really old stock is going to do some sort of a special release because people can't seem to get it. They buy it. They sell it out.
I think most often those extra special older casks are used to blend cognacs. So they blend them together with younger cognacs.
Yeah.
And they're saving them for that purpose. Yeah.
What about you, John? You've had to have had something.
I mean, I probably went on a similar. I did a cognac trip with the BNIC several years ago, and we went to Hennessy, and we were down in the cellars and tasted some really old stuff. So probably very similar to what you're talking about, I'd say.
What about some old stash of Kenny Chesney's Blue Chair Bay rum? Did you have it?
I have some test versions of the rum.
Should we tell everybody used to work with them, and that was fun, by the way. I remember coming to see you at the concert in Anaheim. I got invited.
Oh my goodness! Yeah,
to go to the show. Kenny's people invited us, and you were there, and they had quite a setup going on, but no old stuff there. No old Blue Chair Bay.
No, it's too new. No old Blue Chair Bay. Old is in the name of the song, I think, right? Old Blue Chair.
That's right.
Relating to some blue chair. But that was an interesting experience. And that was, I literally felt like a rock star, when I was doing that, because I went on this was a big tour. I went on 3 or 4 of these dates with him, and they would bring me around in the golf cart going from one end to the stadium to the other. And, I was VIP. And then we were heading up the VIP bar. And then the after concert bar, which they called Sock Monkey for some reason. I don't know the reference, but he called his bar Sock Monkey. And then, it was, especially when we were up in New England doing it, it was all the Patriots stars, coming up to us and getting drinks. And it was pretty awesome. I really felt like a rock star. It was crazy.
Well, speaking of feeling, I felt the same way. So my girlfriend at the time was a huge Kenny Chesney fan. So we get to the show and we're hanging out with you backstage beforehand. And then they took us up and there was an area on top of the soundboard. So this is at Anaheim Stadium. So the soundboard's maybe 30 yards out right in the middle. And on top of that, they had an observation deck. So right in front of the stage, great. We go out there, we're watching, and about halfway through the first song, and it's a song everybody loves. I didn't know what the song was. A PA comes up and taps me, says, "Mr. Dunn, come with me." And Jess, my girlfriend, says, "Wait, no, what do you mean? We're here. Like, these are great. I can see." I said, "Well, I don't think he's taking us somewhere worse, Yeah. And he walks us backstage, and we go on the stage. Like, we're on the stage to the point where she stops. Kenny Chesney's about 15 feet behind her performing. She's crying. She's so happy. And then we get over to remember the little area on the side, but the best is only in LA does this shit happen. We're on the side and this big guy bumps into me dancing. He bumps into me. He's like, "Oh, sorry." And I look up and it's Vince Vaughn.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Yeah. Do you remember him being at that show?
I actually don't. And, I don't remember that.
Yeah. He was a nice guy, man, and we ended up hanging there. But Chair Bay Rum, it's still around, right?
Oh yeah, it's still around, and it's still very, very successful. I reach out to them every once in a while because I want to feel like a rock star again. I have that craving. I'm like, hey, I'm here, I'm around. I can work the VIP bar if you want me to. How's Kenny doing?
Well, that's one of the things that I'm fortunate about with my show, Plug, What We're Drinking with Dan Dunn. It's heavily sort of weighted towards the celebrity aspect of it. And as we know now, there's no shortage of celebrities getting into the booze game. In fact, I'd love to get your opinion on this. Is it possible to have one more celebrity tequila brand? Can the universe sustain it, or does it just collapse upon itself if one more celebrity gets in there? I can't believe how many celebrity
honestly, I think we can have unlimited celebrities producing limitless tequila.
Let's try an experiment here.
Plenty of room.
I'll say one, and then you fire back another one. We'll just keep going until we run out. All right. The Rock has a tequila.
Yes.
Who else?
Oh, the guys from Breaking Bad have a mezcal.
They have a mezcal, Dos Hombres. Yeah, I've had Bryan Cranston on the show. Nick Jonas and John Barbados have Villa One tequila.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead.
We're just talking about tequila?
Yeah, we're going to keep going until we run out of brands. Who else?
I don't know. Who else? You'll know more than I.
Oh man, you're forgetting the original man, the guy who really started.
Yeah, George Clooney and
No, way before that.
The guy.
Margaritaville.
He doesn't have a brand. He didn't have a brand. Sammy Hagar.
Sammy Hagar.
Cabo Wabo tequila was kind of the first one. And the hilarious part of that is when Sammy sold the brand, I think to was it Campari, whoever he sold it to. I remember it was such a big deal. It was like he sold it for $130,000, like $130,000. No, not $130 million.
$130 million, like that,
right? And everybody thought that was insane,
crazy.
You get that kind of money. And then along comes Clooney and Gerber, and they get $1 billion for theirs.
Can you believe that? I mean, that is it just blows my mind, man. I'm like, oh my God.
Do you know how much money they put in each? There's 3 of them. I can't remember the other guy's name. They put up $250,000 each to do this of their own money. and within 4 years had sold the brand for $1 billion.
Yeah.
Now that's a return on your investment. Pitbull has a tequila.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Eva Longoria just launched a tequila.
Yes. Dan Dunn.
What's the one? The infamous one.
Is Dan Dunn?
No, it's coming soon. Yeah. No, the infamous one is one of the not Kendall Jenner.
Yes, the younger one.
Kylie Jenner.
That's right. And
one of them has a 818 tequila.
And she had some sort of embarrassing moment video. She had to post it on her TikTok or something, or what was that?
Yeah, she did. I mean, she's obviously not a tequila aficionado, but so what? People just love to attack. Not that I'm going to drink that tequila. I would think of the celebrity brand. I mean, I like Dos Hombres, actually, the mezcal, and Casamigos is fine, right?
Yeah,
fine.
I mean, very good. Very good. Yeah,
yeah. It's not. It's fine.
It's fine. It does the trick.
Jeff has no idea what we're talking about.
No, but I do know that.
Do you know Jeff? Do you know who Pitbull is?
Yes, I do.
You know who Pitbull
exactly
is.
what you're talking about. Yes.
Okay.
Hey, Dad.
I love tequila.
Hey, Dad.
It's one of my favorites. Yes.
You wanted to talk a little bit about Dan's childhood.
I wanted to talk.
Oprah. We're gonna have an Oprah moment here.
I wanted to talk about less frivolous things.
Sorry. By the way, I'm sorry. I apologize. It's like I'm taking over your show. It's the podcaster in me. I'm like, yeah, I'll talk about what I want to talk about. No, go ahead.
In-depth psychological studies of Dan Dunn.
Okay.
And I think that what I was going to say is your history really goes back a long way to the age of 7.
Not that long. How old do you think I am?
Yes, to the age of 7 when you were living in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And your imbiber character started back then at P&J's Tavern, correct?
That's right. Well, yeah. I mean, it depends on it all perspective, whether that was tragic or fortuitous. My dad, my parents split when I was very young, and my dad liked to drink. He doesn't like to drink anymore, but back then he did. And he would take me to the bar, the corner bar. We grew up poor in Philly, and we would go there. And my dad was young, so single guy, he was going there. And I basically kind of got, I'd get like he'd hand me like a pocket full of quarters or dimes, whatever it was back then, and go play the pinball machine and do whatever. But there was a guy there named Tall Paul who owned the bar, and he sort of took me under his wing, and he would take me behind the bar, and he would show me how a drink got made. And every once in a while he'd let me pretend, I'd make one, and I'd put it, it'd be something like, just be when I say make a drink, it was like Crown Royal on the rocks, but I would pour it and then slide it in front of the customer, and they'd give me a little tip. And I kind of fell in love with bars back then. I was like, wow, this is a cool this is a cool spot. And little did I know, it laid the foundation for what would become a part of my career.
Living Loaded.
It's in my book, Living Loaded.
That's right, which I happen to have right here. And by the way,
as do I.
I cannot stop laughing. This is my second reading of the book. I read it when it first came out. I was sitting on my couch, just cracking up, could not stop laughing. It's one of the funniest, most interesting books I have ever read.
Well, what I love about the Dan Dunn books is that it's all you, and and you can imagine just being next to you, having these words come out of your mouth. I mean, it's you.
Reading the books is like being with Dan.
Yeah,
that's what it's like.
I honestly couldn't tell you what. I actually pulled it out because you said you were going to talk about it, and I realized I don't think I've looked at this book in 10 years.
Oh, really?
But well, it's fun. I mean, it's good. It's fine. I think anytime you do stuff, you feel like you progressively get better. So my most recent book, American Wino, in my opinion, is a much better book than Living Loaded, and probably because Wino is way more personal in terms of the subject matters. My younger brother died, and American Wino is about a trip that I took around the country. The Philadelphia Inquirer described it as Eat, Pray, Love meets Sideways while on the road. And so probably the subject matter was more personal than Living Loaded was more just about being funny and working in some spirit stuff. But yeah, thank you for that. I mean, it is a fun. I was flipping through it before I came on. I was like, oh, there's some funny stuff.
No, you should reread Living Loaded.
Yeah,
I suggest you do that.
We suggest you read your book.
Do people read their own books? Do they read their?
They do.
Let me give you. Let me.
Yeah. I know. I usually don't.
I've written four. I've published four. Right. I mean, and the last thing in the world I'm going to do is read them, because I write in a very tedious manner, at least in terms of books. So I'll write a paragraph, and then I read it, and I'm sort of editing as I go. Then I write the next paragraph, and then I read both of those. Then the next one, and then I read all three of those. It's very. I'm not the sort of person that can let loose and just start writing it for books. For other things, I can, magazine pieces, things. But for books, I'm editing as I go. So by the time I get to the end, I've read that book thousands of times. So I don't ever want to read it again, except at the readings that you do when you go on a book tour. That part is great. I love that. To hear it out loud and to see people react to it in real time, being read out loud is fun. But other than that, thank you.
And there's also Nobody Likes a Quitter, which was one of your books too. And I keep this near and dear to me because I'm in it. Well, I'm also in Living Loaded, but there's a story behind you including me in this book, right? And that's kind of where we began our relationship, I think, a little bit.
No idea what's in. What did I?
Oh, he has no idea. He doesn't remember. He doesn't remember.
Yeah. No.
Well, I remember wondering whether you would remember or not.
Well, I remember Living Loaded. So what I did in Living Loaded, I had this idea that that the beginning of every chapter,
right, I
asked bartender friends of mine if they would create a drink to quote pair with that chapter, and Jonathan was gracious enough to do that, right? Isn't that what you did? Didn't you do a drink for me in the book?
Yes, the Freudian flip. The Freudian
That's
flip.
right. And he wrote up a little backstory to it, and it was great. I mean, it was you, and man, I look back, I go, so Dale DeGroff, everybody, Aisha Sharp, Jeffrey Morgenthaler. There were so many great bartenders that contributed. That was really sweet of everybody to do. And, that's something that I would love to do someday. And in fact, I'm getting the idea right now is maybe do a podcast. I'd like to try all those drinks again. Just have a party and have all those drinks.
Oh, yeah.
We did it.
Great idea.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
And do you remember the book launch? I don't know if you remember that or not, but it was with Albert Trummer at Theater Bar.
Oh my! Yeah, that's right.
I remember
it was a massive thing
in New York.
I loved. Yeah, it was in New York.
And
it was fantastic.
They had people. They had like Cirque du Soleil performers, and
it
was a couple hundred people there. It was a giant party.
Oh yeah. It was packed.
That was funny. That was one of the most fun book signings I think I've ever had. I mean, the ones that jump out. I mean, I love doing Book Soup out here in LA because it's such an iconic place. And then I did the Strand for Living Loaded, or not Living. What's the other one? American Wino. We did it at the Strand in the Rare Book Room upstairs, and that was really great too. That's the fun part. The writing part of it kind of sucks.
Yeah, that's the tedious part. But I want to go back to something Jonathan said. He said that the books you write are all about you. And that's exactly the point. That's the point of what you do, I think. Forgive me for putting words in your mouth, but can we say, based on your past experience and your influence, which we will get to in a minute, that you are a gonzo journalist?
Like how you tee that up there, Jeff. Look, when I was young, as I alluded to, my childhood was problematic, I would say. And there's a lot of ways you can go, right? My mother is bipolar. My dad was an alcoholic. We were poor. They split up. It was not pleasant. And so you've got all this angst, right? You've got all this shit going on that you're trying to deal with. And sometimes kids deal with it by becoming delinquents. And I was certainly, there was an element of that to my life as well. But the way that I dealt with it was early on in my life, I would write little fantasy books, and always be the hero is like this the young guy who's set upon by the world, and he's got to battle his, and it was me, but it would be fantasy. It'd be set in some mythical world somewhere. And then as I got older, I remember saying before I took up writing, but really it was like I took up bitching and I just started writing it down, and it was, and the humor part of it, which, I'm not telling you anything you don't know before. I mean, if you think about a lot of the great comedians had really shitty childhoods, and you either let it devour you or you laugh at it. And then you discover that not only can you laugh at it, but you can make other people. I think that's what it does. It's almost like a way of, if you think about it, like making a spirit, right? You take a starch, and then you take that starch, and through a variety of processes, including fermentation, distillation, it becomes something else, right? So with me, it was like I took this pain, and through the process of writing, and it becomes something else. It becomes something useful. It becomes, who cares about a potato, right? But we do. But that potato becomes a vodka. The wheat becomes it. And that was what it is. If you can turn that pain and convert it into entertainment, really, that's what it was. It's taking. I mean, I don't know what it did for me, but everybody else seemed to enjoy it. Yeah.
And hasn't your?
I'm still all screwed up, but yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Join the club, right?
Right.
And, isn't your writing greatly influenced by Hunter S. Thompson?
He was certainly. I mean, I was fortunate to know Hunter for years and work with him a little bit. When I help, I guess, with some various projects that he was on, and sure, a huge influence in my life. I remember reading Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas and Hell's Angels and all that when I was young, college, and then through just a weird set of coincidences and other sort of, I ended up in Aspen, Colorado, which I'd never heard of it. I didn't know anybody that had ever been to Aspen. Again, I grew up poor in Philly. I knew nothing of it. I just knew that there were rich people in Aspen. And then one day I wound up there. And then not too long after that, I wound up sitting in Hunter S. Thompson's kitchen. And we became friends. And it sure played a big role. A big part of it was trying to find my own voice, because, the temptation is to try to copy him. And you can't do that. I couldn't possibly, do that. But you can certainly draw from people. I'll give you an example. One of the things Hunter did when he was a young man, a teenager, he used to take books, As I Lay Dying, Faulkner, or Hemingway or Fitzgerald, and he would retype them. He would open the book and he would just type the book out, because he wanted to get that rhythm of what it felt like to write a great book. So he would take a book that already existed and he would just start retyping it to get the rhythm. And that, I think, is a great lesson that I took from Hunter, and is what I tell any young writer that I encounter is read everything you can, devour everything, the best stuff you can, and then let it inform your own writing in little ways. Don't try to be, I love Tom Robbins. I can't be Tom Robbins. It would be a fucking, can I curse on the show? I already have been, right?
You've already done it.
It would be a disaster for me to try to copy Tom Robbins, because I'm not Tom Robbins, and I'm not as good as Tom Robbins at least in that sort of style of writing. But there are parts of Tom Robbins that I see if I go back, not that I go back, but if I were to go back, I'm sure I would see little things where I go, oh, I must have been reading Still Life with Woodpecker when I wrote that. Or I was reading, The Old Man and the Sea when I wrote that. Or there's a lot of that kind of stuff that I see sometimes.
Yeah, well, I find similarities between Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas and some of your writing as well.
I wish there were similarities in how much money I made, how many copies we sold. Although, I guess I can say this now because, yes. So, when Hunter got divorced from his first wife, Sandy, he had already published. He was either Fear and Loathing was just coming out but it wasn't a phenomenon, and he wasn't, the world famous Hunter S. Thompson yet. And in the divorce settlement, they had a place in Woody Creek, outside of Aspen. He took the house and he gave her all the royalties for this book that was coming out, thinking, what the hell, how much could it be?
Oh my God.
He never saw a dime.
Wow.
From the book sales. He made money off the movie, the films, but all of the royalties from the book went to Sandy, his wife.
Wow.
Imagine that.
That is incredible. I can't believe that.
The lesson here: don't get married.
Well,
you guys. You guys have been married. You're both married, right?
Yes.
Yes. 43 years for me.
Yeah.
Yes.
I haven't gotten there yet.
Yes, it'll be.
You're not old enough. You're a youngster.
In fact, 43 is my cutoff age. I won't date anybody over that. I'm kidding. I'm totally joking. It's way younger than that.
There's always so much more to talk about, and so much more that we can talk about. But we'll just have to have you on again. So that we can hear some interesting.
I feel like I hijacked your show. The first half of the show is me talking about celebrity tequila brands. I apologize.
It's basically your show now. It's basically a Dan Dunn production.
But it's you, Dan. It's you. We want you.
It's you.
To come through in this.
Yeah.
And
can you send me Carrie's email? I want to talk to her about taking over the show.
Yes, Carrie's our producer. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. We will put you guys in touch, and the next episode we'll have Dan as the host.
Well, I would love to have you guys on What We're Drinking sometime as well.
Are we? Wait, but we're not celebrities.
Yes. We can do like a 3 or 4 minute segment with you.
Okay,
maybe 3 minutes, 2.5, 2 to 3 minutes.
It keeps going down and down.
I think that's just enough of you guys for my podcast.
Yeah.
2 to 3. I'm kidding. You can come on for hours. We'll talk. I miss you both, man. I haven't seen you guys. We're living in COVID time, and you forget. I have not seen you. Jeff, I haven't seen you in way too long. And Jonathan, it's been several years, right? I think since we last saw each other.
Yeah.
I'm hoping, put this away. I'm almost positive I'm going to be doing my show, a live recording in New York City at the Stand Comedy Club. We just did one this summer. It was great. Sold it out. Amazing. We're going to do another one, I think, on November 10th at the Stand in New York City. And you guys will both be invited to that.
Thank you.
And I'd love to see you there. Well, I don't know for sure if that's the day.
The timing could work out because this episode might air right around that time. So that would be be cool.
And every time I miss you, Dan, which is quite often, I go back to Living Loaded and I read the dedication that you wrote to me in that book.
Wait, where did I put
you wrote me a dedication, which was incredible.
Oh, I wrote something personally.
Yes, you did. Yeah, not printed in the book, but you wrote it by hand during the book launch. And
I'll leave you with this from a great book, or mediocre book. All right, here we go. Should I leave you with this?
Let's go.
I gave in the end of Living Loaded, I did a little thing called How to Live a Long and Loaded Life, and I gave 8 pointers to this, include like pity is a waste. Self-pity doubly so. Have a glass of wine, for Christ's sakes. Know your limits. Fuck your limits. Fuck everyone. Find love. And never overstay your welcome is number 8. So with that, I'll say, so as you probably noticed, we're just a short way away from the very, very end of this book. So I kind of have to go. And as you may have gathered by now, I'm not all that good at ending things. If I could wrap things up with this book by not calling it back, I'd be on familiar ground. But I'm told that won't work in this case. I drink for a living. I wrote a book about it. It's pretty simple. So we'll close simply with a story, a drinking story. This guy is at home in bed with his wife, and he hears a rat-tat-tat on the door. He looks at the clock on his nightstand. It's 3:30 in the morning, and he thinks, I'm not getting out of bed at this hour, and rolls over. A minute later, he hears a louder knock. You gonna answer that? His wife asked groggily. Pissed off and exhausted, he drags himself out of bed, throws on his bathrobe, and trudges downstairs. When he opens the door, he sees a man standing on the other side. The guy's clearly drunk. Hi there, slurs the stranger. Can you give me a push? Are you fucking kidding me, asshole? It's 3:30. I was in bed. Now get lost before I call the cops. He slams the door and heads back upstairs. When he tells his wife what happened, she's shocked. Greg, that wasn't very nice of you. Remember that night we broke down in the pouring rain on the way to pick up the kids from the babysitter and you had to knock on that man's door to get us started again? What would have happened if he told us to get lost? But the guy is wasted, the husband protests. It doesn't matter, she says. He needs our help, and the Christian thing to do is to help him. Chasen, the husband, reluctantly climbs out of bed again, gets dressed, and heads downstairs. He opens the front door, but he can't see the stranger anywhere, so he shouts, "Hey, man, do you still want to push?" From somewhere in the distance, he hears a voice cry out, "Yeah, please, that would be great." Still unable to locate the stranger, he shouts, "Where are you?" And the stranger replies, "I'm over here, on your swing." I'd like to think that I'm basically that guy, out in your yard, drunk, looking for kicks at 3 a.m. Give me a push, and I promise not to piss on your begonias. So there we go.
That's hilarious.
Now you don't even have to read the book. You know how it ends.
Dan Dunn, you are an American classic.
Wow.
and an icon.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, guys. It was a real pleasure being on the show, and good luck with the show, and I can't wait to see you in person.
Thank you very much. We'll see you soon.
Same here.
Thanks so much. That does it for today's show. To learn more about future guests, visit thecocktailguru.com or follow us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram.
The Cocktail Guru podcast is produced by First Reel Entertainment and distributed by EatsDrinksTV, a service of the Center for Culinary Culture, home of the Cocktail Collection, and is available via Anchor, Spotify, Apple, Google, and wherever fine podcasts can be heard.